The flight that ends the question. No one in the hive ever spoke about sex. They spoke about work, about the precise 34.5 degrees Celsius that kept the brood alive, about nectar flows that arrived like stock market booms or busted like October crashes, about wind direction, comb tremor, the faint electric buzz in the wax that meant the whole glittering machine was one bad vibration from collapse. The workers moved with the quiet, practiced reverence of people who have long since stopped asking why they do what they do. Purpose wasn't philosophy, it was physics. If desire existed here, it didn't look like hunger, it looked like status. The foragers who returned heavy with the richest pollen got the best cells nearest the queen's chamber. The nurse bees who fed the royal jelly got to touch larvae that might one day become queens. Everyone knew their rung on the ladder, and the ladder was made of wax and spit and the constant, low-grade terror that if you slipped, the hive would simply eat you and move on. The queen did not stir often. When she did, the entire structure leaned, a gravitational deference that would have made any Wall Street trader envious. She was not erotic, not maternal in the human sense. She was the archive, the dividend, the future folded into one swollen, pulsing abdomen. When she moved, the hive adjusted itself around her like courtiers around a dowager empress. When she rested, the hive exhaled in perfect synchrony. And then there were the drones. They arrived in late spring, almost apologetically, like uninvited cousins showing up at the country club in last season's blazer. Larger, slower, eyes huge and permanently astonished, as if they had just glimpsed something obscene beyond the cedar walls. They did not forage, they did not build, they did not defend. They consumed royal jelly and honey stores like trust fund kids burning through principle, flying short, aimless loops that made the workers avert their antennae in second-hand embarrassment. The hive did not judge them with cruelty. There was no resentment. Only the unspoken, status-coded knowing. You exist for one transaction, one brief, catastrophic merger. After that, you're garbage. The drones themselves never spoke of it, but each felt the pull the way a compass needle trembles toward north without comprehending magnetism. Not pleasure, not conquest, just the slow, biological certainty that their entire existence had been engineered for a single, terminal appointment high above the fields. When the day came, it did not feel dramatic inside the hive. The air simply warmed by 3 degrees. The queen rose, and the drones lifted as if a bell only they could hear had sounded. High above the earth, far beyond wax and safety, the ritual unfolded. No romance, no lingering, precision only. The drone closed on her in the blinding sunlight, wings screaming at 240 beats per second. In that instant, less than 5 seconds, everything he was designed to carry emptied into her. Literally. The endophallus everted with explosive force, rupturing the muscular bulb at the base, tearing free from his abdomen in a wet pop that echoed inside his own skull. He felt the hot rush of his own hemolymph spilling into the sky like ink in water. His body, suddenly hollow, spiraled downward, a spent rocket casing tumbling through the blue. He fell. Below, the fields did not mourn. The hive did not pause. The queen did not look back. She returned carrying years of possibility sealed inside her spermatheca, the toxic afterglow of a dozen blindings already fading from her compound eyes. Back in the hive, the workers resumed their stations. They adjusted temperature. They cleaned. They fed larvae that had not existed when the drone took flight. Life continued, not because his sacrifice was honoured, but because it was assumed, the way Americans assume the stock market will always go up. the way small towns assume the quiet neighbour will never snap. No one called him a martyr. No one called him foolish. No one called him enlightened. He was simply finished. And yet, if a human were watching closely, some backyard naturalist with binoculars and a cup of lukewarm coffee, they might have misunderstood everything. They might have said the hive was obsessed with reproduction. They might have said the drones were reckless. They might have said the queen was cruel. But the hive knew something humans often forget, and fear when they remember. Sex was never the point. Continuation was. The drone was not seeking pleasure. He was answering design. His life was not short because it was wasted. It was short because it was complete. The workers who would never reproduce were not deprived. They were liberated from distraction. Their devotion was not repression, it was clarity. They were not missing something, they were holding something steady. And the queen, who would never mate again, did not crave repetition. She carried the memory forward, distributing it carefully, one cell at a time, as if whispering, "This is enough. This will last." If the hive had a spirituality, it would not speak of desire fulfilled or denied. It would speak of roles accepted, of individuals dissolving into a pattern larger than their lifespan, of meaning found not in intensity, but in placement. Yet on quiet nights, when the comb cooled and the foragers slept, something stirred in the deepest cells. A faint, wrong vibration. Not tremor, not wind. Something older. Something that remembered the taste of hemolymph in the sky and wondered if completion was really the end, or only the beginning of being used up. The hive did not ask who got more. It only asked, did the future arrive? And because it did, every spring, every drone flight, every small wet pop in the sunlight, the question ended there. But the question never quite stayed ended. It waited. Like the hum in the wall of an old American house that no one can find the source of, but everyone hears when the lights are off.